Hello and welcome everyone back to the Expedition Guide. So after that extremely long-winded look at Kharak's social systems and all the clan histories, my gosh, it took more than an hour. Yeah, it was crazy. But thankfully, this one should go fairly quickly. A lot of it is just kind of imagery and, visuals, but it's cool. So let's move on. Part 5, Operation Skaal Brii. Actually, before we do that, I should note, keep in mind, the Kharak social systems, right? It's really important to kind of understand the history because it will be instrumental in understanding the story of this game, and particularly understanding the background and the context of the animosity, right? Between the various clans, particularly the Khadiim and the Ghalcian, right? So there's been a lot of religious turmoil and tribal warfare on this planet, and a lot of it stems from their interpretation of the religion and basically, the will of Sajuk, as it were. And again, you can find a lot of parallels in this difference of religious interpretation between various religions, in real life. So just take your pick, right? Anyway, it has caused a lot of animosity between these various clans, and so understanding the background, why did the heresy wars begin, right? How did it displace other Kithid within the world, right? Which Kithid went south, and found the sea, the Magirian Sea, right? Which ones headed north, right? Founded Tyr and established the Diamid, and so on. So understanding those basic ideas of how the historical and political and religious systems on this planet developed, it will be pretty important to kind of gaining a better appreciation of the story. So, and where the planet is today. Anyway, so that said, let's move on to part 5, Operation Skaal Brii, Initial Dyrraki Expedition, 1106 KDS. Operation Skaal Brii, Initial Anomaly Expedition. Through extensive research, additional ISAT scans, and protracted petitioning of the Diamid, Operation Skaal Brii was authorized and fast-tracked to launch. Though not classified, the operation was not widely advertised. The Ifrit Nabal, a desert exploration carrier already in active service, was reassigned and crewed with specialized personnel, prioritizing science and military divisions. The research was the primary goal of the expedition. Yet, despite their exile, the Ghalcian remained a valid threat, and any excursion into the Great Banded Desert would likely encounter them. It is believed that the anomaly would provide technological advances, or perhaps insight into the history of all Kithid. The xenogenesis question may be definitively answered. And again, going back to the very first Homeworld historical and technical briefing, right? They have a xenogenesis theory, which basically states that they are not native to the planet of Kharak. Let's take a look at the Ifrit class heavy carrier, Ifrit Nabal. So we click on these little pieces here, and here we go. So it has average armor of 13 centimeters of crystalline carbon composite, or C3. It has a mass of 106,000 tons, and a top speed of 50 kph, kilometers per hour. Passive sensors, a Sajet Model 2000 multi-spectrum receivers. Complement, 450 officers, 500 soldiers, and 306 workers. Constructed at Hral Industrial Works in Tyr, it was laid down in 1101 and completed in 1102, so surprisingly it only took them a year to build this. But, as we know, these people have incredibly fast construction and research and development, so. Power plant 1.14 MW/U, whatever that means, megawatts or something per something, I don't know. Refueling 1.2 tons fissionable rods in the 2.5 KRS range. Replacement required every 27 months. And for armament, it has 12 57.5 main cannons, 16 VRF anti-air batteries, and 14 automated anti-personnel mortar stations. Okay, here we have a little breakdown of some of the main officers. Captain Deckard Nabal. Age 62, education, Nabal Tech Krish, top 3%. Tier Primal Tactical School, graduated 7 of 350 in his year. Command experience, 7 years in heavy patrol crawlers along Stormbreaker base line. Commentary. Commander Deckard is a solid, experienced officer, just the kind we need at the helm of this mission. He will not be rushed to a decision, but can move quickly when he needs to. He has years of experience running a crawler in the high desert, doing search and rescue work, as well as engaging small desert raiders forces before they could do any real damage to outlying settlements. This selection committee agrees that he will function at his peak on this mission when positioned with a relatively aggressive second. Jacob Sajet, Science Officer, age 38, education, Tier Tech Sajet Tech Krish, honors communication, minor in EM Physics, Tier Command School, graduated first in class, SIGINT and Tactical Analysis. SIGINT is Signals Intelligence. Command experience, 3 years defense team and counterinsurgency northern operations, operating with distinction while stationed at Stormbreaker fortresses beyond Cathal and Brii. Commentary. Lieutenant Jacob is a very aggressive officer with a gift for anticipating and thwarting Gaussian opponents under a variety of conditions. He has an unmatched talent for signals intelligence and was often able to defeat larger formations of enemy troops by deciphering their command broadcasts and knowing where the enemy would be almost before they did. Alliance Intelligence has twice tried to promote Jacob to a secure analysis team position in Tier, but both times he found a way back into the field through his, quote, dedication to tactical demotion, unquote, as one commanding officer observed. The only critical comment this selection committee can make about this lieutenant is that while he takes great care with those under his command, he has an almost reckless disregard for his own safety in the face of enemy fire. Lieutenant Jacob's passion can be very useful to this operation, given that he is placed in a position where his sense of responsibility can be extended to an entire carrier. It will also help to pair him with a senior officer unlikely to give him permission to leave the ship to lead raids outside the carrier. Okay, so in other words, don't let this guy out of your sight and don't let him leave. He's a bit of a go-getter, you know? All right, and we have some classified restricted data, part of which has been redacted. We got a battlefield commission, some medals, campaign of something rather. So-and-so has intended to cross-train with the blah 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 as a young officer and then return to something and something. Then he encountered Commander something with his entire career arc changed course. While the two will never discuss exactly what happened during the Battle of blank, it has resulted in blank swearing fealty to the older officer, and the two have served together ever since. Blank is an excellent all-around officer, but when he works in conjunction with Blank, he becomes a superlative first officer, literally handling everything his commander does not have the resources for. Alright, and another mysterious person. Blank years and for further and potential in the event of successful blank causing blank as of blank cannot be stressed enough. If possible, the expedition blank, yeah. Well, that was fascinating, I'm sure. Alright, so that is the Skaal Brii. We go down here, we see post-mortem. Without any trace of wreckage or communication, this subcommittee can offer very little input as to the cause of any catastrophic failure and can only give opinions on the flaws that can be seen in hindsight. 1. Equipment. While the Ifrit Nabal was a powerful carrier, it was neither designed nor purposely equipped for long-term functioning in conditions common to the equatorial region. It is acknowledged that the Security Council measured this risk versus getting to the anomaly as quickly as possible, and chose to roll the dice. This subcommittee nevertheless sees this as the greatest flaw in the original mission plan. We recommend that a dedicated carrier be commissioned and assigned a crew with deep desert operating conditions in mind from the start. Special attention should be paid to propulsion systems and power plants. This recommendation holds regardless of the time such preparations may take. 2. Combat proficiency. While the Ifrit was a fully functional combat vessel, it is clear now that she was not designed to perform nearly constant combat operations far from base without support. It is highly recommended that the new carrier class design include efficient production systems for repairs and loss replacement. while the hull itself be heavily reinforced. We cannot know with any certainty that the Gulsian military was responsible for the loss of the Ifrit, but we can say with certainty that their encrypted communication traffic spiked heavily during the period when the Ifrit went permanently out of communication. They should be considered a credible threat. Support. Given the hostile conditions that the Ifrit was subjected to, both military and environmental, the support web for the operation was woefully inadequate. The circumstances which led to a decision to hurry up Operation Skaal Brii are acknowledged once again, but we recommend that any follow-up operation include an extensive commitment to support, including at least one more deep operations carrier to perform enemy suppression missions in the same region that the expedition will be exploring. Alright, so we basically found out that the Ifrit Nabal carrier here was lost somewhere in the desert, and basically it didn't have the support, the ability to conduct prolonged operations. It couldn't manufacture stuff, right? You know, you need a good logistics train for this stuff, and it needed more rugged and powerful equipment. So somewhere out there is the Ifrit Nabal that went missing. So that was Operation Skaal Brii. Moving on, let's look at Operation Khadiim, 2nd Draki Expedition, 1110 KDS. Though the loss of the Ifrit Nabal was tragic, the importance of the primary anomaly cannot be understated. Gulsian incursions have been increasing in frequency, and the technology they have been employing in recent sorties is causing continuous strain on the coalition military. Though the objective of Operation Khadiim mirrors that of the Skaal Brii, additional emphasis is being placed on discovering the source of Gulsian technological breakthroughs. To that end, the redesigned Skaal-class carrier was commissioned and recently completed. Carriers Amida, Feeskire, Akalon, and Sakala will be joining the PC on this operation. Launch preparations are underway and personnel selections are being finalized. So this is a Sakala-class deep desert carrier, the Kapisi. It has more armor, 25 centimeters of ceramic monofiber plating, and slightly different at that. It is also larger at 125,000 tons, with a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour. It has a Sajet Model 9000 multi-spectrum receivers and Samtai Industries seismic detectors. 350 officers, 1,050 soldiers, and 450 workers. It has a Nabal Tech phased LADAR/radar, a POC-2 naval acoustic sensor suites, Draki Series 300 interpretation systems. It was constructed at Hral Industrial Works in Tyr, laid down in 1107, and completed 2 years later in 1109. It has a power plant of 3.68 MW/U and 1 tons of fissionable rods in the 4.2 KRS range. Replacement required every 48 months. So it has a more powerful reactor, and it is capable of longer sustained operations. And finally, it has 16 50.5 main HCR cannons, 24 VRF Gauss anti-aircraft batteries, and 28 automated MRL positions. The commanding officer is Captain Roman Sajet, age 51, basic training, Tier Barracks Complex, class of 68. Interestingly enough, he does not have any apparently continuing education beyond that, so usually someone with that rank would have further education. Command experience, 7 battlefield commissions, 13 combat recognition medals including the Battle of Reichsdune and the Drifting Seas campaign of 81 to 83. Commander of Kakar Stormbreaker Fortress since 1102. Commentary. Captain Roman's career literally spans the length of the modern era of desert combat on Kharak. He has risen from the ranks of warrior recruit all the way to fortress commander. He commanded the first generation of combat crawlers to enter service in 1075, and while he has a lifetime of experience to draw upon, all of his recent action reviews indicate he is still very dynamic in his problem solving and open to the input of his crew. If it is at all possible for the PC to succeed in this mission, Roman is the captain that will make that possible. Alright, well, he apparently is the man for the job. Science Officer Rachel Sajet, age 32. Academy of Advanced Sciences, triple honors. Physics, Astronomy, Environmental Studies. Good for her. First in class. Tier Officer Training Academy, first in class. Sensors Engineering. Command experience, none. So I guess she would be something of what you might call a staff officer, right? With a very specialized field. She doesn't command anything, I'm guessing, right? Just has a commission. Commentary, Rachel Sajet is the one exception in our career military crew selections. Ah, yes. Whereas we have leaned heavily on combat experience career military for all bridge officers, Lieutenant Rachel is one of Kharak's leading researchers and was on track to be the youngest leader of the Diamond Science Council. Instead of continuing on this path, the loss of her brother on the Ifrit Nabal seems to have changed the trajectory of her life. Ah, so her brother is Jacob Sajet. She suddenly transferred to the Sajet military branch and entered the Coalition Officer Training Program. Oh, so she's like a 90-day wonder, I'm guessing. Her credentials alone would have been enough to merit serious consideration for this operation, but the selection committee had received very strong recommendations in her favor from both the Sajet and Nabal Sa. While she lacks any combat experience, it's fair to say that her presence aboard the Kapisi will guarantee that any data from the anomaly can be analyzed immediately and conclusions drawn in real time instead of relying on communications to get the information back to Tier. Intelligence Officer Nathan Sajet, age 38. Basic training, Tier Barracks Complex, Tier Officer Training Academy, class of 90, Soban Red Academy, honors in military history and philosophy, so he's a smart guy, class of 94. Command experience, 4 battlefield commissions, 8 combat recognition medals, currently senior officer of military intelligence at Coalition HQ. Alright, so he's running the intel shop and he's got the 100-pound brain in him. Commentary, Nathan entered the Soban Advanced Warfare Academy at the age of 22 and graduated 4 years later with honors. Best of the best of the best, sir! With honors. His aptitude for analytics and intelligence work was exceptional, and he was immediately assigned to the Office of Military Intelligence at Tier. Records show that he objected to this posting, insisting on being stationed where the action was. Although his request was denied, he continued to lobby his commanding officer over the course of several months and was finally granted his wish. He ended up serving 3 tours stationed along the frontier wall, defending his post against some of the worst Gaussian raids ever launched against the North. He distinguished himself in battle on multiple occasions and earned numerous citations. After his 3rd tour, he was finally reassigned to Tier, where he began working his way up through the ranks as an intelligence officer. His intimate first-hand knowledge of Gaussian units and tactics only hastened his rise. An expert in his field with significant battle experience, he is an obvious choice to take charge of Sajet intelligence operations for this expedition, and has been personally recommended by Captain Roman Sajet. Fleet Operations, Clea Soban, age 41. Education, University of Tier, honors in Management and Logistics, Soban Red Academy, as a consultant. Classified command experience. Commentary, despite her civilian background, Clea Soban's name was put forward early on to run fleet operations aboard the Sajet carrier Kapisi. A consultant at the Soban Red Academy for well over a decade, she is intimately familiar with military doctrine and procedures and has proven a valuable asset throughout the planning stages of the second expedition. Her ability to manage complex logistics of such an ambitious undertaking, not to mention her fortitude under pressure, are unassailable in light of her previous deployments on various Black Book operations which remain classified at this time. Okay, alright. So, she's like she did some consulting for the Special Forces or something? With these facts in hand, all objections over her deployment aboard the Kapisi ahead of other, less qualified Sajet officers have been dismissed by Fleet Command. Alright, so we got an interesting cast of characters here aboard this carrier. So, objectives. 1. The primary anomaly. The highest priority for Operation Khadiim is to find and claim the Draki anomaly for the Coalition Kithid. All operational lessons learned for the failure of Operation Skaal Brii have been applied to this operation. The Kapisi can strike harder, last longer, and adapt faster than any other carrier in the Coalition. Her science officer, Rachel Sajet, should be able to give the expedition the edge when it comes to securing the anomaly and interpreting whatever data can be found there. 2. Gaussian technology. Discovering any intel on Gaussian forces or the source of their advanced tech. The Kapisi will be penetrating deeper into the equatorial abyss than any Alliance force in the past 200 years. There is no doubt they will be engaging Gaussian forces along their route. Science Division's secondary priority after the anomaly is to examine Gaussian tech and try to derive an origin point that could be targeted. Alright, so remember, right, they were theorizing, right, the Gaussian were showing up in raids with some very advanced technology, and they were trying to theorize about where they were getting this technology, and that somehow they were finding this stuff, possibly in the desert, and for whatever reason it was propelling their military operations forward. So, obviously we're going for the anomaly, but we're also trying to figure out where the Gaussian are getting their high tech. Alright, so Diomid Security Council, eyes only. It is no secret that Gaussian forces have had the Stormbreaker Wall under siege for months, or that our defenses along it are beginning to fail. Although expedition crews have been briefed on the mission, they are currently unaware that military intelligence plans to accelerate the original launch date by 3 months. Whatever the explanation given for this change of plans, it will be mere fiction. The truth is, we are desperate to pull enemy forces away from the wall in order to save it from falling into enemy hands and exposing Tyr to open attack. Intel believes the expedition presence inside Gaussian territory will provide a timely and crucial diversion, allowing our defenses time to repair and rearm. Okay, so we're being used to draw forces away. Okay, I suppose that makes sense, but we're pushing everything up by several months. We have decided that command crews for the Kapisi, Sakala, the Fiskire, Akalon, and Amida will not be informed of the true reason behind this decision, limiting any negative effects on morale. The success of this expedition is now more important than ever. Alright, well, you know what they say about morale. The beatings will continue until morale improves, so... Alright, so we're pushing this up ahead. So Operation Khadiim is moving ahead, full speed, or at flank speed. So that was the preceding and current carrier operations. We are going to be part of Operation Khadiim. And let's end this one off with the vehicle manifest.
Base runner in service.
Yes, there we go, it loads. So we have 2 factions here, the Coalition and the Gaussian. We're going to go over them both. Start here, we have a base runner. These sturdy, reliable deployment vehicles are the unsung heroes of the Coalition military. While all Kith militaries have their own versions of this vehicle type, the current Nabal design is the Coalition standard. So vital are these vehicles that there is no definitive defensive doctrine taught at the Tyr Military Academy that does not depend on the deployment of base runners while under fire to deploy turrets and lay minefields when conditions suddenly change. There is an ancient Kharak phrase that ends every briefing for base runner crews. Akadath su tira. Victory is work. So you can see some turrets here. It can also deploy little UAVs, some little drones. It has a couple of guns on it. Nothing really substantial, it's just a workhorse. And as you can see, some 2 figures there. This is a large vehicle. Many of these vehicles are very large. Gives a good sense of scale.
Light attack vehicle in service.
Alright, Manan Light Attack Vehicle. LAV-type vehicles were some of the first motorized war machines to see service on the sands of Kharak. The ability to move fast, hit hard, and retreat even faster has been vital to mechanized warfare, and no Kith understands these qualities better than the Manan. Their LAV design won the Coalition Light Vehicle competition when 5 Manan LAVs entered the test area at full speed, then kicked on their overspeed boosters and struck the Nabal candidate vehicles with enough simulated concentrated firepower to rate them destroyed before the announcer had finished announcing the opposing forces. It looks like a cross between an MRAP and some kind of like World War II German Wehrmacht vehicle, like a Kubelwagen or something.
Salvager standing by.
Samta Salvager Vehicle. While most Kith make their reputation in the Northern Alliance by placing military designs into the Coalition military, the Samta are content knowing that without their contributions of salvager vehicles and crews, no extended desert operations would be possible. The hardy salvager is capable of using advanced phase disassembler technology to break down and gather elements from sources all the way from mineral deposits to vehicle wreckage. When it comes to actual battlefield wrecks, salvagers are armed with demolition charge dispensers to help break up large objects for the PD array to finish harvesting quickly and efficiently. So we have our classic salvage vehicle here. You can clearly see some of the design from the Homeworld 2 salvagers as well. Not so much from Homeworld 1.
Rachel here.
Science Base Runner. Each Kith military has its own version of the Base Runner. The Sajet are no exception. Leveraging their mastery of science, they have built upon the initial Nabal design to create a highly sophisticated science utility vehicle, outfitted with an integrated onboard technology suite, second only to those found aboard Coalition capital ships. The Base Runner has the power, mobility, and ability to conduct full spectrum scans, hard data analysis, subsurface exploration, and rapid 3D projection modeling while out in the field. Wasn't that nifty? It has also been outfitted with a modified repair beam, adding to its already significant deployment value. So, this is the vehicle that Rachel Sajet will be running around in. See, it's color coded, right? It has the Sajet insignia on there. Okay, it's meant to be special.
Armored assault online.
If speed and maneuverability are the keys to LAV warfare, then the natural counter to those qualities is the Soban-built armored assault vehicle. The AAV is able to dish out punishing, high speed, high accuracy firepower while acting as a forward screen for main combat formations. A solid wedge formation can obliterate even massed LAV attacks, and should heavier contacts appear, AAVs are able to emit a crystalline smokescreen capable of blocking even advanced sensors from targeting the larger, more valuable crawlers. It's got a really big Gatling gun on it. It's a tank, essentially. Or maybe like a, what's that vehicle that like mounts a 20mm Vulcan on it? So obviously these people favor, wheeled and tracked vehicles here. And it has smoke dispensers, right? Those three black things right there.
Missile battery online.
Soban Missile Battery Vehicle. The Soban-built MBV is designed to work in close conjunction with their AAV design, which entered Coalition service just 2 years before the MBV was approved for use by Coalition forces. The tracked heavy anti-air missile battery is designed to provide extensive protection against enemy air assets, while an onboard automated mortar is also standard equipment, in case the MBV is needed to aid nearby AAVs with light fire support. So it is a big, giant surface-air missile battery, but can also function as a mortar vehicle.
Railgun operational.
Alright, and we have a Horizon-class railgun. Again, showing the Nabal tendency towards heavy ordnance, the Horizon is said to be a gun looking for a crawler. The heavy rail cannon, capable of vaporizing entire sheets of the target's armor on impact, is considered one of the deadliest weapons on Kharak, but usually it is only found in immobile fortress mounts because its size, weight, and power requirements. Nabal military designers have made it possible to bring this weapon to the mobile battlefield by basically wrapping the crawler around its reactor, around the gun itself. The Horizon is not particularly fast or durable, but it is capable of tearing apart full-size carriers with only a few shots. So it's a giant railgun. Alright, moving on, we have aircraft.
Strike fighter ready for service.
Hammer Strike Fighter. Accepted for service in the Alliance Air Wing during the first triad of 1108 KDS, the Hammer is the cutting edge of aerospace design on Kharak, reputed to be the most expensive aircraft produced by Kith Sajet. The Hammer is capable of making high-speed missile attacks against ground targets. Its highly advanced wing design allows the aircraft to sprint to its target and then extend its wings for tight maneuvers and carrier landings. So, this is a strike fighter. Also note that it is not an interceptor. It is not a air-to-air fighter. It is basically purely designed for air-to-ground sorties.
Bomber ready for sortie.
The Anvil, tactical bomber. The Anvil is the oldest design from Sajet Aerospace, still in active service. Due to be phased out in 1111 by the new Sulka attack bomber, the Anvil is still a reliable aircraft despite many of them being older than their crews. Though its cluster bomb munitions can be devastating to enemy ground forces moving in tight formation, the slow-moving Anvil is vulnerable to interception and should be escorted by close fighter cover. So it nominally carries cluster bombs.
Gunship is now in circulation.
Forge gunship. Sajet Aerospace has built a century-long reputation for aircraft designs that are the embodiment of beauty and grace. Although their military aircraft have also been deadly. When it came to the Forge, however, it seems that the only thought on the designer's mind was dealing death. The Forge is a heavily armored thug of an aircraft that exists for one reason and one reason only: to direct devastating firepower against tightly armored raider formations. Armed with multiple VRF cannons, this gunship is tough enough to orbit its target while slowly bringing all of its weapons up to speed, and once that happens, very few escape alive. So it's got multiple, guns on gimbal mounts, and they can shoot at stuff and orbit over the target. It's like if you took the GAU 8 from the A-10 Warthog and put it on a, movable mount. That's what the gunship is.
Support cruiser now operational.
Alright, cruiser class vessels. The Warden class support cruiser. Current standard in Coalition support cruisers, the Skaal designed and produced Warden class fulfills all requirements of the task without neglecting anything critical. It can cover long-range resourcing missions with its point defense cannons and is also able to use its repair capabilities to maintain any other crawlers and vehicles in its formation. The Warden's large containment base allows it to act as a resource storage point in contested areas, while its impressive armor allows it to survive until help arrives or the resources are pulled back. Alright, so basically it's a mobile resourcing drop-off point and it can heal stuff. You see these little cylinders at the top here on the corners. Those are healing beams. And we've got some Gatling gun defense cannons, which are clearly Mark 15 Phalanx Sea-Whiz cannons. Or at least modeled on them, I should say.
Battlecruiser operational.
Vanguard class battle cruiser. This powerful battle cruiser has had a troubled start in military service. While initially launched by Kith Soban and lauded for its amazing durability and heavy firepower, combat maneuvers in the deep desert revealed the design was too heavy for the width of its forward drive tracks. 7 units were lost in dune slides before Soban recalled the design and removed the forward heavy artillery mounts. While the current Mark II version has to depend solely on its dual heavy cannons, the change has made this battlecruiser a solid anchor to any battle line under any conditions. So it has two dual heavy cannons on top of it.
Artillery cruiser operational.
Eclipse class artillery cruiser. The Eclipse class is a tribute to Kith Nabal's long relationship with artillery. Well, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. Ever since they surged forth from Tyr to end the chaos of the Heresy Wars, the Nabal have depended on 2 key assets: the power of unassailable logic and the strength of long-range firepower. This cruiser design is long past her original service period, but the Eclipse class is a case of the weapon being so perfect for its job that the 3 scheduled replacements over the past 15 years have failed to outperform the original. Well, yay, if it ain't broke, right? Don't fix it. It's got a bunch of artillery launchers here. Alright, so that was the components of the Coalition. Here we have the Skaal class of command/exploration carriers are the cutting edge of Nabal design and Sajet modular technology. Though Soban-sponsored Skaal was the first carrier of this design to clear the construction yards in late 1105, with the Kapisi following 2 triads later. While the Kapisi is being fitted for Operation Khadiim. The Skaal has served in combat operations nearly non-stop since her inaugural shakedown patrol, and has already earned distinction in 2 major offensives against Gaussian raiding formations. There are plans for 8 other command carriers in this class, with Nabal and Haral claiming construction priority for the next 2. Alright, so this is the main vehicle we'll be running around the desert with. So it's a Skaal class carrier. You know, interestingly, it is obviously clearly based on modern day super carriers. It has an angled flight deck, right? It has catapults, essentially 3 catapults here on the bow. For whatever reason, they have stuck the island on the port side rather than on the starboard side. And yeah, it's got 4 Sea-Whiz turrets on the side here, which we'll see in the game do not actually shoot down any missiles. They are used to target ground vehicles coming at it. It also has missile launchers and things like that on it. And you can add various modular upgrades to it as well to improve certain things, certain characteristics. And of course, like any awesome carrier command ship in any Homeworld game, it can build massive things. Alright, let's move on to the Gaussian.
Base runner rendered.
Ooh, as you can see, they're meant to sound very, deep and scary.
Right, they sound like this. We're the Gaussian. As if we weren't meant to sound really, really evil. Ha 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 ha.
Alright, so the Gaussian version of the Base Runner is an advanced hover tech vehicle which manages to incorporate heavy armor into its design while maintaining effective battlefield speeds. The Batir, named after the deep desert brood tunneler, maintains an augmented repair field which allows it to work on multiple vehicles within its range of influence instead of just repairing one unit at a time. As you can see, it has no wheels or tracks. It uses hover technology.
Salvager online.
Alright, the Gaussian Salvager unit functions much the same way as the Samta version, though Samta engineers would argue their craft is much more reliable. The major difference in the 2 vehicles is deployment doctrine. While aligned Salvager teams usually run in triads with the most experienced unit on point to identify resources or threats, the Gaussian often operate in swarms that can reduce wreckage fields to raw materials in minutes instead of hours. While this tactic makes Gaussian salvage teams vulnerable to ambush by experienced alliance commanders, it is also a fact that the Gaussiani can often make a battlefield wreck disappear in the time it takes alliance salvagers to reach it.
Light attack vehicle online.
Gaussian forces, these are sand skimmers, codename Samt. Gaussian forces have always employed light, very fast attack craft in both the recon and harassment role. The current iteration of the Gaussian sand skimmer has been codenamed the Samte, after the sidestepping swarmer insects of the dry seas. The vehicle performs its tasks with the deadly flesh-stripping efficiency of its namesake. Armed with light cannons and relatively thin-skinned for a combat vehicle, the Samte can be especially deadly in swarms, where it has been observed to boost its rate of fire to the level where it becomes a serious threat to larger, lightly armored units.
Armored ship online.
Alright, the assault ship, codenamed Ardith Sar. This Gaussian assault ship can be a lethal adversary if allowed to pick the range of engagement. The Ardith Sar is armed with an array of rapid-fire autocannons firing HE rounds. While damage falls off dramatically at longer ranges, at short range it can be devastating. Often Sar's will work in coordinated packs, using their high survivability to lure careless enemy units into pursuing one team member while others pounce at short range.
Missile ship rendering complete.
Up until recently, Coalition intelligence had assumed that this older unit was withdrawn from frontline service due to its slower speed and limited use as an anti-air platform. Unfortunately, while the Gaussian are not known for their sentimental love for older designs, the Mtoth has recently reappeared in frontline battles with an engine upgrade as well as an upgrade to a fully modern multiple rocket launcher. Mtoth is now capable of mass-firing anti-air as well as ground strike ordnance.
Assault railgun in service.
Intel Analysis Addendum, Coalition Command Eyes Only. It is the opinion of the Aggressor Technology Analysis Division that the appearance of the Brii assault unit so soon after the deployment of the Pator indicates that Kith Gulsian is somehow receiving advanced technology from an outside source. Even with all the dedicated weapon research available to the Alliance, there is no viable way we could have upgraded our main railgun to a triple barrel configuration, mated it with a viable powertrain, and fielded it all within the 3 triads since the appearance of the Pator railgun carrier. While the Brii's triple railgun has less hitting power and range, this defect is more than compensated by its faster rate of fire. To be blunt, Elders, this unit should not exist. Not this soon, not this effectively. So it's got a triple-barreled gun on it, does it?
Heavy railgun in service.
The Pator is clearly the Gulsian answer to the Coalition Horizon-class battlecrawler. It appeared on the battlefield approximately a year after the Horizon began inflicting significant losses on Gulsian armored craft. While it wields the identical caliber of railgun as the Horizon, the Gulsian design can use the same railgun to fire a vehicle-disabling EMP round. It is recommended that these units be engaged with directed airstrikes.
Interceptor assembled.
At this moment, the main Gulsian interceptor, codenamed Fixbat, is outclassed by the Alliance Hammer strike fighter in terms of both speed and maneuverability. Against other Coalition aircraft, the Fixbat is still a deadly threat with its air-to-air missiles, and it can even interdict ground units using its complement of 4 air-to-surface missiles. While the Alliance holds the upper hand in the air war at the moment, there are rumors that a new generation of Fixbats are arriving on the battlefield with improved engines, making them even faster than the Hammer.
Bomber assembled, standing by for assignment.
The Bokir Heavy Bomber is a clear example of Gulsian weapon tech evolving faster than their platform development. In this case, Gulsian air assets have been tasked with delivering the massive Konar Ray smart munition and have been forced to retask the Bokir Heavy Bomber for the job. Currently, the Bokir can only deliver one of these deadly bombs at a time, and it travels at a very slow speed for a modern aircraft. But this vulnerability in delivery is made up for by the deadliness of the ordnance. A single impact from a Konar Ray can devastate a cruiser-class unit. With rumors of an upgraded Bokir capable of carrying 2 of these smart bombs, Alliance fighter pilots have been ordered to make it their top priority to bring down these slow-moving bombers.
Production cruiser rendering complete.
The current Gulsian production cruiser, named by Intel after the ancient spirit of the Harvest, began its career nearly 50 years ago as a frontline combat cruiser. As weapons and sensors advanced, the Kharak was slowly withdrawn from the frontline combat service and reappeared with reduced weaponry and massively increased production facilities. While it is often found at the heart of extended resourcing squadrons, it can also be found supporting the spear thrust of a main assault, sitting just behind the front line and rapidly producing dangerous combat units to replace losses and keeping the offensive going.
Siege cruiser rendering complete.
Alert, 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 all command stations. Be aware, this state-of-the-art cruiser has appeared on the battlefield in the past triad and is considered extremely dangerous at long range. Reports are still being compiled, but it is confirmed this is a hover-enabled cruiser and is capable of long-range artillery fire. Also reported, but not confirmed, is some sort of ballistic EMP device, capable of shutting down any of our units caught in the impact zone.
Honor Guard cruiser awaiting deployment.
Alert, 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 all command stations. On sighting this new Gulsian heavy cruiser, retreat if possible until you are reinforced by at least a full command carrier group plus air assets. The only combat footage Coalition Intel has acquired from the Fall of Fortress base Bashir shows 2 of these new heavy cruisers on approach. The Sajuk Ta appears to have punched through fortress defenses with some kind of spinal-mounted heavy rail gun that could obliterate prepared positions with a single shot. Footage also indicates possible variations in model, with either AA or close support cannons used for separate variants. So it has a massive spinal-mounted railgun. Run if you see it. Alright, so that was the main vehicles of the Gulsian. Let's look at the carrier.
Carrier systems ready.
Codename Corval. Unlike their 9 mythical flagship, the Gulsian main battle carrier, codenamed Corval by Coalition Intelligence, is a very well-known foe. It was first spotted 16 years ago, rarely in the beginning, but now in larger and larger numbers. The Corval is usually found at the center of any given Gulsian battle group. While the Corval class lacks the range and full production potential of Coalition command carriers, it is durable, well-armed, and fully capable of sustaining forward air operations by itself. When a more complete production operation is required, it can most often be found teamed up with the Kharak class of production carriers. Alright, so as you can see with these various units, the
ship online.
The Gulsian prefer very insectoid type
Assault
designs,
service.
or
Heavy
inspired
railgun
designs,
ship rendering complete. Interceptor
to many of their ships, or their vessels, or vehicles, or whatever you want to call them. Much like the Tidan do of Homeworld 1. And I believe that is actually it for all of the vehicle manifests. I don't think I actually missed anything. Yes, indeed, there's nothing else in here. So that's going to conclude it for this video. In the next one, hopefully we will finish off parts 8, 9, and 10. So I will see you then.